Good morning. This morning we're going to read Joshua 15. And we're going to read the whole chapter, but you can kind of, again, skip over those town names, just scan them, but read especially verses 13 through 19, and then we'll camp again on verse 63. So pause me and read chapter 15. Okay, so Judah was first because even though he was the fourth son, he was first in blessing. Reuben, Simeon, and were they had gotten in trouble. And you can go back and read all about that. And then the Levites were the third tribe in birth order, and they were the priests. So Judah becomes the first tribe to be on the west side of the Jordan to receive their, well, not to receive their allotment, but to be allotted. They all kind of did it at the same time. But Judah was the first in name. And so it gives all the tribes of Judah, clan by clan, it gives all of those and their boundaries. And they got a pretty big section. And then in verse 13, we kind of stop and have a little aside. And this is one of my favorite parts because it has to do with women. But so Caleb says, hey, hold the phone, remember my land. And, Joshua gave it to him. We talked about that yesterday. So he had some wars, even though he's 80. He has some wars, he's 85. He has some wars, and he wins them. And then he has another little area that he needs to call in Debir, formerly called Kiriath Sefer. And he says, hey, I will give my daughter Aksa to whoever takes this land. So Othniel, who is his nephew, steps up and says, got this. So he took it, and he married Aksa. So this is a pretty common thing, even though they're first cousins. That was not necessarily, there's a lot of intermarriage back then, and also a lot of arranged marriages. And this was probably something that Caleb kind of knew that Othniel was interested, and probably even knew that Aksa was as well, but not necessarily. So he gave him Othniel and Aksa this land. The problem with this land is it was dry land. The Negev, it's a desert. It's basically just desert land, and so it's land, but not good for much. So the story goes that Aksa went to Othniel and said, hey, we need to ask Dad for some water. And so my little Bible has a little note, and it says she urged him, and then the little note at the bottom says, and some say that he turned around and urged her to go to Dad, and which she did, went to Dad. And that may be a daughter-dad thing, that he's more likely to give it to the daughter than to the son-in-law. That could very well be. So she rides a donkey up and to Dad and says, hey, he says, what can I do for you? And she says, Dad, need some water. Can you do me a favor and give us some water too? So he did. And so the springs that he gave her fed their land. And then it goes on and tells some more about the tribes, the clans in the tribe of Judah. And then we get to verse 63, and Judah could not dislodge the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem, and to this day the Jebusites live there with the people of Judah. And you don't know how much they couldn't, whether they couldn't, they didn't ask God to be on their side. God had promised them the land. They didn't try. They didn't try hard enough. But it was a basic fault they had, because God had told them to take the land. And you guys know, Jerusalem, kind of an important city, and it starts right here. Right here. They can't take it. So they live there, the Jebusites, along with the Israelites in Judah. Not a good thing. So the lesson is, when God says do the whole thing, he doesn't mean do 90% of it. He means do the whole thing. See you tomorrow.